That's it. Okay. Budget meeting.
Number one.
Number one, take it away, Andrew.
No, it's not the way managed. The manager it doesn't say
The
finance
manager
director's
says it,
budget.
okay. Well, it is the manager's budget. True.
Good evening, Commission. Thank you for allowing me to present some budget information highlights on the 2025 manager's recommended budget. Budget was released Tuesday, November 1st, and budget workshops will be tonight, Wednesday, November 13th, Monday, November 25th, and Wednesday, December 4th. Those are all from 6 to 9 p.m. Public hearings on the budget will be Tuesday, November 12th, and Tuesday, December 10th, as part of the regular 8 p.m. commission meetings. Budget is scheduled to be adopted on December 10th at the public meeting. All meetings are in person at 710 Washington Road, and each workshop and meeting has a Zoom link where you may watch remotely. Public may only comment at public hearings, not at the workshops. Zoom participants will also be able to speak during all public comment sessions. Please look to mountlebanon.org and Lebo alerts for the landing page for all things budget. The landing page has the budget book as formatted in years past, and we will include the public hearing dates and Zoom links, budget workshop dates, plus a detailed, easy to read, easy to navigate budget. I'd also encourage you to listen to an Inside Lebo podcast that was done by Finance Director Andrew McCreary on the 2025 budget. In addition, you may view the budget at the Municipal Customer Service Center desk at 710 Washington Road and the Mount Lebanon Public Library at 16 Castle Shannon Boulevard. These workshops will be recorded and available online on the municipal website and on Comcast Channel 17 and Verizon Channel 34 in the days following each meeting. The manager's recommended 2025 budget is in balance as required by the charter. I will provide a brief overview of my budget message, and then our Finance Director, Andrew McCreary, will provide information on revenues. Local government has a responsibility to use prudent financial management as it provides certain core services. In order to continue the provision of these services, continued investment in municipal facilities is a necessity. The 2025 budget focuses on this investment. To get to the part that everybody always wants to know, the manager's 2025 recommended budget proposes no increase in municipal real estate taxes. Millage is proposed to remain at 4.5 mils. Past decisions by the commission in regard to fees for service and real estate taxes have enabled the municipality to maintain a strong financial position and still have resources to deliver high quality services. I'm also not recommending any changes to the earned income tax, real estate transfer tax, or to the municipal tax rate or municipal rate for sewage processing. I am recommending the following items be considered for a possible $5 million bond issue. This bond issue would not require a millage increase. So those items would be a replacement of the ice rink chiller, replacement of the swimming pool filtration system. We've talked about both of those issues over discussion sessions over this past year. The tennis court reconstruction phase 3, that's courts 5 and 6. That's the last 2 courts remaining as part of the phased project. Pickle court construction, that would be the conversion of courts 1 and 2 that would provide us with 6 pickleball courts. Tennis center lighting, that's for courts 1 through 8. Some tennis center fencing, this is year 1 of a 2-year project. HVAC upgrades at the municipal building and public safety center, and ADA improvements at Meadowcroft Park. All those items together total just under $5 million, and we could also cover the cost of issuance. These items are capital improvements to municipal facilities that represent investments and targeted upgrades to existing facilities to ensure continued operations into the future while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Resilience and improvement of municipal facilities continue to be addressed in the current budget. A new fire training facility and public works storage building will be completed in 2024. The fire training facility will help our career and volunteer firefighters to be more prepared and will also allow neighboring departments to train alongside Mount Lebanon. Special thanks to Senator Fontana and Representative Miller for their support of 2 grant applications that provided over $800,000 in funding towards this project, and to the Mount Lebanon Volunteer Fire Association that provided another $100,000. In the recently completed Ascend Lebo Comprehensive Plan, Respondents identified parks and recreation facilities as the highest priority for where Mount Lebanon should focus investment over the next decade. That ties back to the list of projects I just read for the bond recommendation. I'm also recommending several new or expanded levels as follows. I'm recommending that we go through and retain a wage and benefits consultant. We've done this typically on about a 5-year period with partner, most likely with a neighboring community to partially offset those costs to make sure that we are still in line with market in terms of what we are paying our current employees. Levomag.com update, you'll hear more about that. That's for the website. You'll hear more about that from PIO when they go through their presentation. Zoning code update study. This would be the zoning ordinance and the saldo. You will remember last year during the budget workshops, we talked extensively about the need to update our zoning ordinance and subdivision and land development ordinance. We made a commitment or indicated we would make a commitment to funding that study and doing that update in 2025. So that honors that conversation from last year. The residential sidewalk assessment program. This is not the sidewalk expansion program. This is simply the match wherein we go out and do an assessment and notify property owners of slabs that are in need of replacement. School signal flasher replacement system. Our current system is really reaching the end of its useful life. So we're going to make that investment back into that system. A full-time custodial supervisor. This is the only additional position I'm recommending. You will remember a couple of years ago, the commission made the decision to bring our custodial services in-house. That's been very successful for us. This position will give us some capacity so that, quite honestly, Phil Avolia, who is our facilities manager, is not spending quite as much time having to cover when we have absences, and will also provide some additional capacity for our parks and recreation maintenance staff, thereby hopefully eliminating their need for an additional full-time position. Small item of floor scrubber for the building, some exterior fence replacement. Phase 2 of our parks and field signage started last year. Ball zone replacement at Highland Terrace and Williamsburg Park. A fuel dispenser replacement and a code scanner. Those are both public works items. Mr. Sukul can touch on those. Platform tennis skirting replacement, swim center slide restoration and safety inspection, patrol rifle replacement for MLPD, as well as a watch commander vehicle. Budget message also contains updates and information on our newly created dashboards on the municipal website, so the public can track the progress on items in the municipality's comprehensive plan, Ascend Lebo, the main park site plan and recreation center architectural study, Activate Uptown, which is the next phase of our Uptown project, and the South Garage feasibility study. Please read the budget message for more information on these items. The total combined budget for all funds for 2025 is $69.7 million, and the recommended operating budget is $41.6 million. Infrastructure continues to be an area of focus for the municipality. Our surface and subsurface infrastructure will both receive significant investment in this budget, with $2.275 million allocated to street reconstruction, $6.2 million towards sanitary sewer improvements, and $522,480 towards storm sewer improvements. Other items of note: stormwater management fee will increase 12.5% to $10.13 per month per ERU, or for a single family residential home to $121.56 a year. This was part of an ordinance that was passed 2 years ago and is the next calendar year increase by that ordinance. The solid waste fee will increase 9% to $316 per year per household unit. And of note, since the budget went to print, we learned the municipality will receive a grant of $621,000 towards the new fire training building. And our healthcare renewal rates came in at 10.5%, and we had budgeted for a 15% increase. So there's some additional capacity out there for the commission to consider. Preparation of the budget is a collaborative process that requires input and information from all municipal departments and offices. Each year, Andrew McCreary and Terry Winstein continue to improve the budget process, and I'd like to recognize and thank both of them for their efforts. I'd also like to recognize Assistant Manager and Planner Ian McMeans for his contributions to this year's budget preparation and budget message. The budget is the financial plan for municipal services and operations for the coming year. It's about being prepared to meet the community's needs and to deliver essential services to our residents at the highest possible level, at the lowest possible cost. Municipal staff would also like to recognize the commission for their dedication and support and looks forward to reviewing the budget with you and the community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Keith. Wore the appropriate socks for the evening, didn't even notice it. They do have dollar bills on them.
That's great.
Talk about dollar bills.
Yeah,
Some may think they're coming out of my socks, but they're. So, thank you, Commission. We'll briefly this evening. Got a couple good things, a couple bad things, so we'll go over those briefly here. So first, we're gonna talk about real estate taxes. As Manager McGill mentioned, we are not recommending a millage increase, but that does not mean that there's not effects on real estate millage right now. So real estate assessments. So real estate assessments, as you'll see in the budget, due to the common level ratio changes that have been happening and a number of appeals that we've been seeing, both from commercial and residential properties, we are budgeting $172,000 decrease in real estate tax collection. Just to give you an idea, over the past, since 2016, we've had $718,000 worth of refunds issued. In the last 3 years.
On property?
On property tax, just in the last 3 years, approximately half of that, 340,000 has gone out the door. Some of those refunds are properties over multiple years. So that's where it's only 172,000. So those bigger numbers are, hey, I get the appeal, I get it back for 2 years. So I get a 24 refund, a 23 refund, and a 22 refund. So there's some overlapping there, but quite a few dollars going out the door, especially in the last 3 years from that. So that's all noted within the budget. So based on the 2024 assessment plus assessment changes that we've seen so far this year, we're comfortable with that number where it's at right now. So any questions on real estate tax? We keep track of all those. So if anybody's ever interested in the data, we're more than happy to share it with you. Earned income tax. So always conservative with earned income tax when we first deliver the budget, but this rate has really held steady at 3.5% this year. The commission should receive their EIT report for the month here shortly, and you'll see it's above 3.5% again through October. So that's presenting very, very well. So my opinion is we can go probably up another 400 to 450,000 in EIT collections over what I budgeted. I was unsure with the election and what was happening, where we were at. So if we continue at 3.5 with collections where we're at, and just budget a slight 2% increase for next year, that's another 400,000 that we would, 400 to 450,000 that we can budget for the revenue piece. So it's a good sign, and generally we don't see a lot of blips downward. Fingers crossed. We'll let you know, but we track that monthly to see where our trends are trending of month over month and year over year. So I'm comfortable with that number. If the commission's all right with it, we'll bump up the EIT for next year as well. So any questions on that? Local services tax is our next item to discuss on the tax front. I've held this steady, and here's why. We're seeing a decrease as people are returning to work. We saw a returning to work in their home offices. So we saw a bump post-COVID where people that were working from home were now paying LST in the township because their home base is now here. They're working more days here at home, so therefore they're withholding the LST at our rate for our township here. That started to go back down. So we're trending more towards the 425,000. So I thought it best to leave it where it's at. So we may even fall short just a little bit this year, but I think that's a conservative number. So real estate transfer tax is the next tax to discuss. This is not a good one. So some good, some bad. So Real estate transfer tax has really seen a really heavy hit. So not only interest rates, just, over time, it's gonna take a while to get back, even if the Fed lowers the interest rate. It takes 3 to 6 months before we start seeing real estate transfers, really start to pick back up. It's not an immediate, hey, there's a panacea of, real estate, being transferred. So even at this number, I think we should decrease this number even from where I projected it, which was at 2 million. I think we should go back down to 1.8 million, so a $200,000 decrease. I was waiting for a couple months worth of receipts, and I think they're not showing that we should, in the first half of 2025, count on the same type of receipts we were receiving in 2024. So
I'm seeing smaller houses transfer, but the ones that are bigger on the market are the ones that don't seem to be selling
Yeah.
also, which is
Yeah.
kind of an interesting.
What were the numbers, Andrew? We've had like 5 something a year. Was it a significant drop?
500.
Transfers, yeah.
I mean, you can see, we're already down 62 properties this year, through September. And you can
That's
see
in
how
September.
in September, yeah, we were down 62. So my guess, last year we were down, as well. We were down, I believe, close to 50, don't quote me on that one, but I believe it was close to 50 properties. So, we're trailing in the number of properties transferring. Sometimes, we do see those one-offs, hopefully one-off, commercial property sales.
Yeah.
We may have those, from time to time, which does help but we're not seeing that this year. And you can never really project that for the following years, so. County sales tax, again, with inflation stagnating, really and holding where it was at, we're not seeing a large increase like we were. I think it has trailed, where we were last year, and I projected a decrease there as well. It's going down, I believe, 1.9% budget v budget. But I think we're not gonna see the dramatic increases we were seeing. Pre-inflationary, sales tax, generally, the county sales tax, the portion that we received, was growing between 4.5% and 5.5%. So we were exceeding that for a couple years. And so now, we're at a point where this is probably our one blip year where we're gonna be down, and then we'll start growing again. It always does. Something we've counted on for years. So just a slight blip going down this year. License and permits, and fees. The primary revenue source here are twofold. One is cable franchise fees. Kind of using the Gen Alpha lingo, it's kind of mid. So it hasn't been increasing. That's my saying, you're kind of mid. So, say again? That was cringe, that's totally cringe, yeah. Totally.
Everybody tuned in, just tuned out.
I have my ways. You may say whatever you know. It has really gone up, hasn't really gone down. The trailing 8 quarters, we track that quarterly because that's where we receive the payments, but we typically look at the trailing 8 quarters. And we're right where we were for the last 8 quarters. So, I think we're fine there. The other is building permits. Those are variable depending on what comes in. So we budgeted a slight increase, but, we're comfortable with that number, given the permit activity. Investment and rental, we had a large increase due to the, Fed rate hikes. Primarily where we saw that was in our sewage fund, which has a large cash balance. So you'll see, on your front pages in your budget binder, that number of 558,000 for that, is really from a sewage fund perspective. Over half of that is from the sewage fund, because it does have a large cash balance. As the consent order moves on, we will be spending that cash, at some point.
Sure.
With some of those larger capital projects, but that's where that's coming from. Although the general fund has benefited to the tune of over 225,000 so far this year.
Nice.
We'll continue to monitor that as well. So, Terry, over here to my right, does a great job of monitoring that, making sure our cash is where it needs to be, to properly position us so that we can maximize our interest. Intergovernmental revenues, we did have a nice positive 8% boost in the state pension aid. So this is well over 1.1 or 1.2 million this year. So that's a nice boost. It's grown 2 straight years. So that's nice. So we budget that one very conservatively, just as a 1.5% unit cost increase. This helps offset our pension costs, which has been nice for the last couple of years, to see that increase for us. Other intergovernmental revenues that we've seen, historically, which are state, the liquid fuels tax, which is the motor vehicle gas tax, some refer to it as. This is flatlined or been decreasing over the last 2 years. We're not projecting an increase here, and we should be expecting in future years that that's most likely going to be going down based on what PennDOT and the state of PA is projecting for those receipts. So it's not something we're going to be able to count on at a growth rate like it was around 2018 is when it started to grow 10% per year. And then it kind of fell off here the last couple of years. Kind of stagnated.
So do we just, I mean, we look at these numbers every year. I guess we'll get into this, but where we have a reduction in liquid fuels income, we would just make that up with general fund,
That's correct.
pretty much.
That's correct. Yeah, there's specified projects or uses that you have to use for
Right.
liquid fuels. So you're limited as to what you use. Here, we don't have that problem. We know we're gonna use all the liquid fuels funds. There are some communities that don't spend on their road programs or don't spend on salt as much as we do, or their streetlights, they don't have as many streetlights as we do, and those types of things. So we don't have a problem spending it. We have dedicated projects that's kind of in the pipeline, but you are correct that as that decreases, or in a situation where we have a heavy snowfall season, I know Rudy's gonna punish me for saying such a thing, but if we do have those, the general fund always has to pick that up.
This may be a dumb question, but as we've started doing things with other municipalities, sharing administrative resources and stuff like that, and I won't belabor this, maybe we'll talk to Phil later, or maybe you know. If we partner, if there are other municipalities that aren't spending liquid fuels funds, can we partner with them and kind of share that?
They aren't spending,
If they're not spending all of their liquid fuels funds, can we partner up with them? Like if we're spending more, which we do every year.
Yeah.
Is there ways that we can, you know, like if we're sharing administrative tasks and there's a value to the share of that administrative tasks, it's like a, you know, like a carbon transfer.
yeah, I don't know that answer, but I will tell you I don't mean to misspeak, but when they may have dedicated projects that they don't use for that year, liquid fuels funds can be carried over.
Hmm.
So there's nothing saying that they can't, if they don't have, we've done it here. When we had light snow seasons,
Right.
we
So they
carry
just
that
push it.
money up, they push it, that's correct.
Got it.
Also, they also can sometimes use it for, because they're not maybe cash plush, we'll save 2 years worth of liquid fuels receipts to then do a road.
Hmm.
Those types of things,
Got it.
so,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, you're probably gonna do that headache. Now,
Yeah.
Terry was saying they can use it for other things like payroll, but good luck with that headache. Yeah, I would never,
Very-
I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
To then go through a state audit of that.
Yeah.
So there are some times when intergovernmental revenue is not received in the following year. So there is another slight decrease there for any grants that we positioned ourselves to be received that we're not projecting to be received in 2025. So
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out. So large decrease in their government revenue comes from grant records. So you're just saying those grants didn't come in this year, we'll get them next year.
reverse.
Okay.
We're getting them this year, they're not coming in next year. Correct. Correct. So, charges of service and other revenue, so, these are all things that we do, and they're detailed out in line items, but the two that I want to make sure I point out is we do have a decrease this year of almost 400,000. There's two reasons. One is insurance proceeds. We've been carrying these over for the firing range. We're waiting for those insurance proceeds to come in. It's gonna be either late this year, or early next year that we're going to be receiving those proceeds. So that will eventually fall off. The other one that we have seen a large decrease in is our dividend for workers' comp. We are not seeing the dividends like we used to. That's a whole nother commission meeting maybe. But given that, and we are paying a hefty sum for our workers' comp premium. As such, this is the 5th year of a program in which we go out and give our our non-employment insurances to a consultant to shop them. We have contacted said consultants. and asked if we could also shop our workers' comp at the time.
Sure.
We've never, ever done that. So we're broaching into new waters, but it's worth a shot.
Sure.
We're paying over $1 million in workers' comp premiums. And I don't believe we need to be paying that much. So we are going to go out to market and see what we find. Right? I may be wrong, and this may be what we need to be paying.
Right,
Really?
understood.
I may be wrong, but we've never done it. So
Yep.
every time we've
Yep.
gone to market with our non-employment insurances, we've seen a reduction.
Mhm.
They sharpen their pencils, so to speak. And that's why we do it every, 5 year gives the insurance to give you, even if you do switch a broker or insurer, it gives them time to build that book and have those claims histories and, those types of things to really, but every 5 years, that's long enough for them to really sharpen their pencils and say, hey, we're gonna continue insuring you at a slightly lower rate, or we're sticking where we're at and see if somebody else wants to give us a shot. So,
Going once every 5 years, it's not like we're rate shopping every year.
Correct.
Right? We are sincerely
Right.
interested in changing.
that's correct. That's correct. So we're gonna do that for workers' comp as well. this year. So, recreation, there was a large increase, and this is due to the indoor absorption, of the indoor activities. Recreation will be presenting tonight.
Sorry, but just one
Yes.
quick question on, I was just looking at some of the increases on that. What is the police field service charge?
Is it reimbursed? Does it say reimbursed afterwards?
Sorry. Um, it's under,
$300,000?
yeah,
Yes, that is for police special details. So that's traffic details, police, or football, basketball details.
sure.
Anytime you see a police officer that's in a car or a construction project at a football game, basketball game, we get paid back for those.
got it, okay. And did we increase the fee? Did we increase the number of them that we do, or the amount of time at each? That's a big jump.
For $60,000, the amount of construction we have within this community,
Post construction.
yes, construction plus their scheduled increase as well. So they have a scheduled, wage increase as well. So that's always something we
So
look
that
at for both
factors
those.
in everything.
Yep. Because every officer gets paid at the same rate, which is the highest rate for details.
Mm.
So whether you're a second year officer or a lieutenant two, you're all getting paid the lieutenant two rate. So
Because
it's
it's
a
basically-
big number.
Field work.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a big number.
yeah.
It's all
Sure.
reimbursed. And they pay us back for that plus a fringe rate.
Yeah.
Plus if they have a car on,
Right.
if they use a car for the detail, they also get paid an administrative charge for having a car there and
Is
those
that
types
a
of things.
legal thing? Is that like they have to be posted at certain events?
No.
We
No,
just do it.
yeah, well, they request it to us, we can deny
Right.
it. It's whether we have the manpower, so on and so forth. Back when, COVID hit, and I hate to harken back to that, but it's a good example. And we were low on numbers, so we had 6 officers retire in 2018, we had low numbers of officers. We were still hiring back to get up to full steam. There is the potential at some point, to say no. We can say, you gotta go hire
Yeah, sure.
your
Your
always safe, you see that car, or, Traffic Safety Inc., let's just, something of that nature. They always have that choice, but some contractors prefer our officers. And regardless of what it costs, because it's not cheap.
Right.
It's not cheap. So, any other questions on those? Yeah. All right, so recreation, like I said, they'll be here this evening, so if you have any questions on their revenue, they'll be talking about that. Manager McGill talked about, the, stormwater fee and the solid waste fee for next year. Also, the Alcoasand fee will be going up to 7% next year. This is a straight pass-through, so this is not something that the municipality recoups in any way. They charge more. They pass it along too. This is part, I believe, 2026, through 2026, it'll be 7% a year. So, I believe that goes through 26 so far. That's on top of 11% for 3 or 4 years, and on top of 7% prior to that for 4 years.
They had a pretty
So-
big campaign talking about, yeah.
So these are big numbers. It's dwarfing what we charge as a municipality for our infrastructure and what we pay for. At $4.05 per gallon, they're close to $12 per 1,000 gallons. So almost triple.
And they have minimums. Like, if if you use 1 gallon, there's like that minimum.
Yeah.
$25, $26 per quarter, yeah, but yeah,
Like lawyers charging for time. 5 minutes just cost you 30.
yep. Lastly, which is always a positive sign, we're only using fund balance here in the 2025 budget, within the sewer fund. And this is for planned, that $6.2 million of sewer projects, that were mentioned, estimated by our engineer. That will be using that fund balance in the sewer fund. That's our only use of fund balance in 2025. A good positive sign that we're not relying on fund balance budget, our council budget. So, positive sign. Any other questions on revenue?
No.
As Manager McGill did mention, I will have the line item for discussion because it was not budgeted in 2024. Was that grant for $621,000. So if you would like to budget that for 2025, because at this point, you're not spending it in 24. That either goes back into the general fund and goes to, reserves, to unassigned fund balance, or you can assign it during this budget process, up to you, and assign it at a later time. But I'll leave it on the list as a non-funded, you can use all or a portion of it as you go through this
It's on the
process.
spreadsheet, so as we move.
It's on there, don't you worry, Steve, it's on there for you. So.
I think you've been through this too many times.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, he'll want it printed out, so don't worry. I'll print the spreadsheet out for him. So he can-
Okay,
So he can do his back of the napkin.
Yeah,
and-
Yeah, sure.
So, that's all I have this evening concerning revenue, and as we go, if you ever have any other questions, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the list, 4 minutes early, is Nick Shallis for Information Services. This is page 28 in the budget, page 37 in your budget plan.
Good evening, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Where's authority coming from? Oh, there he is.
All right, so I'll keep the big spiel about the department down a little bit. I know everyone likes to give a little introduction on what's going on, but it's information technology. We handle all the technology in the department, computers, everything in that nature. But what I am going to touch base on is what really the budget's going to consist of in the following year, and what it's going to support, and what we've been trying to do in the past couple years that we're trying to get done. So we're really taking a revamp look at everything that we do and realigning all of our hardware, software, everything for future-based projects. So for instance, we were very in-house, and everything is moving to the cloud. So we are looking at doing that. We're looking at setting up our in-house infrastructure to be able to handle the cloud and everything for the next 10, 20 years down the line. So that includes consolidating, updating hardware, servers, and different platforms that we're on, aligning priorities with what we want to do and how we do things here, and then still continuing with our scanning and doing digital document storage and making it accessible to everyone everywhere at any time. And on top of all this, maintaining security within that as well. So security for not only for our digital camera systems, everything across every one of our buildings all linked together, but actually securing all of our data and infrastructure that is going to be moving to the cloud and on site too. So a lot of the budget that we put together does include some changes here to hardware and software that's going to allow us to do that. So everyone has my information in front of them. Does anyone have any questions about what I put into the budget this year?
On the budget highlight, page 34 lists all of
List all the
his
items.
item software.
4 and 37 is the story.
All right, if no one has any questions, that's really all I have for this evening. If you come up with any questions afterwards, be sure to shoot me an email or whatever process Andrew set in place to get those questions to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Night.
Thank you.
Moving right along.
All right. Next up, Laura Pace Lilly, page 30 budget. Page 39, budget binder.
Sorry, I think the department should be open. First off, I want to thank you for having us here. I brought Rachel Windsor from our office. She is our assistant PIO. She's in charge of some important projects, so I wanted her here in case you all had any questions for her. Again, thanks go to Terry and Andrew for helping us. They're always so great at working with us and helping us think about things that we maybe hadn't thought of, so it's very helpful. So this has been a busy and awesome year. I'm so grateful to our staff over this last year because we have been able to dramatically increase engagement while we have brought home several noteworthy national and regional awards for our work. So that is always very satisfying. I'm sure you remember from our presentation last month with Ian that our mountlebanon.org website will never be done. It's going to continue to evolve. We continued adding features in 2024, most notably the community dashboard that we demonstrated for you. But for anybody on this meeting who did not see it, it's tied to the progress and completion of the goals in the comprehensive plan. It is located at mountlebanon.org/comprehensive plan, and it will be updated quarterly for the next 10 years. We also converted during the course of this year all of the sunsetted boards and authorities. Again, we just set up the new website, had all the boards and authorities, and then we had to take the sunsetted ones and leave them on there, but move them to a different space and add the new ones. For your background, the agendas and minutes, the old agendas and minutes will continue to be available to the public for 3 years. So as people are doing research on the new boards, they will be able to easily find those old pieces of material.
After the 3 years deleted or?
That's part of our policy, yeah. So even your regular commission meetings and agendas disappear from the website after 3 years. So otherwise it gets, that's kind of what gums up the searches, right? So somebody goes in and looks for, let's say traffic calming, and they get everything that was done in the last 20 years and they can't. It is still available. It's still available through a public records request. That these things are on microfiche and they can be supplied to the public if they ask for them. But we find once 3 years pass, the requests tend to drop off.
Okay.
We handle communications for important topics, including continuing education about our new trash contract. There's still many questions with that. The addition of a social services coordinator to our police department, the Activate Uptown information gathering phase. That's while we worked on transparency for road projects, the Mount Lebanon Park Study, fire prevention, the new Pace Yourself Lebo transportation safety campaign, storm infrastructure, and every major project that the municipality worked on. We completed our second full year of our award-winning podcast, which now has thousands of downloads. We won 3 Golden Quills for our journalism work, including for a multi-platform package on the Vibrant Uptown project. The magazine took the top award for the top publication in the country from the National Association of Government Communicators. And our community engagement plan for the comp plan won an award of excellence from the City County Communication and Marketing Association during its national competition. We handled emergency communications for the police department, including barricaded gunmen and many missing fragile individuals. We implemented our new branding statement as Commissioner has on his drinking up there. This is home. So we created that logo as kind of a more casual logo. It has our tree on it, and this is home. Branding statement that came from the research that was done through the comp plan. And we did not change our formal mark. So the formal mark with the tree in the Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania, and the script that will remain for letterhead, business cards, things like that. But this was just a more welcoming slogan, we thought. In our quest to always sharpen our skills and improve our products, our staff completed training on everything from emergency communications to effective social media campaigns. And we also just recently completed a strategic plan that will lead us into the new year with increased vigor. We have a strong team of 3 full-time employees, 5 part-time employees, and 4 contractors. Those contractors sell our advertising for the magazine just for commission. They are not staff. We have had 2 staff retirements this year. Our content creator and podcast producer, Carrie Monyo, just did her last day with us as a staffer yesterday, but she is going to become a freelancer. She wanted more time to spend with her family and retirement, but she enjoyed working with us. So she just now won't have to come into the office. She'll be a freelancer. And we were interviewing to fill her position this week. We've had some really great interviews and some really great candidates. We filled the other retirement position by hiring Amy Robinson as our new graphic design team lead. She came to us with decades of experience in branding, publishing, and design. Looking ahead to next year, we will be spearheading engagement on several upcoming topics, including the active transportation plan, the South Garage reuse project, and we'll be helping the municipal planner with whatever he needs for engagement on the zoning update. Our budget represents a 3.4% increase in spending over 2024. However, we're also forecasting a 10% increase in revenue due to the addition of a fourth independent contractor sales position. So having more feet out there in the community, we hope will be more fruitful. While most of our costs are increasing, we are celebrating that our mailing costs have decreased. I don't know if you remember me saying our mail house went out of business very suddenly. We converted that over to a different way of mailing it through the printer, and it actually ends up being cheaper, and we have, crossing our fingers, the service has been pretty good. We haven't heard any growing pains or complaints. So yay, we'll take our wins where we can. As you recall, the comprehensive plan survey said residents named the Mount Lebanon Magazine as their #1 way to get news about Mount Lebanon, followed by Lebo Alert and then the municipal website. We are not increasing ad rates for the magazine this year. In fact, we are slightly decreasing the cost of short runs of full pages as our ad reps felt having a 2 in the number. You know, you buy something for $40 or you buy it for $39.99. We dropped that 2 to $19.95. So it won't have that much effect on revenue, but they feel from a just an appealing standpoint, it looks like it's expensive. So we did drop that. But revenue is budgeted to cover 88% of the cost of the magazine in 2025. We still do have challenges ahead. Paper, postage, and labor are 3 of our biggest expenses, and we already had a mid-year cost this year for printing. The good news is that printing cost is not forecasted to increase in our quote for 2025. We have planned for a 3% postage increase after a 6% increase this year. As for new service levels, you'll recall, and I'll remind you that I did not ask for any last year, but I told you at that time, after the comprehensive plan was adopted, that I would be asking for new ones based on the plan's recommendations. Among the plan's citations last year, disclose information, decisions, processes, and data. One of the most important ways that we share information is through our 14-year-old lebomag.com website. It serves as the magazine website, but it also includes live news coverage and detailed information about how the municipality works. So I like to say if mountlebanon.org is where you go to get things done, Lebomag is where you go to find out why you need to do it. So it pretty much tells the story of Mount Lebanon. Content improvements to the site have led to a 14% increase in traffic in 2024 over 2023, which I credit to Rachel Windsor for all her hard work leading that effort. The municipal manager has funded a $14,700 zhuzhing, to use a Gen Z term, of this website. This update zhuzhing for a polish, basically. So it's some infrastructure. The goal is to increase accessibility. The last time this website was updated was in 2011, and it was really a very small update that focused more on the bones behind it. This one will improve accessibility for those with disabilities, increase the usability of the site, and most importantly, bring it into the design standards with the municipal website. So they will look like they go together. There'll be a smoother transition. And we expect, because it'll be easier to read and easier to use, that we'll be able to sell more advertising on it as well. Unlike the municipal website, that website does take revenue to have ads.
Is that a Krakoff quote?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Although Rachel did get several quotes, so, and theirs did happen to be the lowest.
That's in the book.
That is in the book. Most people wanted to do like a $40,000 blow up the site and rework it, and it doesn't need that. It just needs those usability things fixed and just better ways that we can feature material on there. Unfunded requests include $32,000 on behalf of the Civic Engagement Board, who would like to do a community satisfaction survey and have a small budget for municipal activities for MLK Day and Juneteenth. They asked that I draw that to your attention. Other than that, our staff is ready to head into 2025 with energy and enthusiasm, and we are so grateful for all that you give us and the tools that you allow us to use. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
I just have a comment, really. One of the things I know many of us are worried about what the election outcome was. And there was so much misinformation, disinformation, outright lying, flying around, especially on social media, that it really was disturbing. I felt it was some of it. And I know that this is expensive for us to do every year, but we are a source of exactly what is going on. And I think this is of utmost importance that we continue to do that, that we're out there saying, here it is, right here, it's all laid out, you can see it, and we're gonna explain it to you. I just think it's becoming more and more vital, to be honest.
And I think it's unusual for governments to give you the why. They often tell you, here's what it costs and
Yeah.
here's what you need to pay and maybe even here's how we're spending your money. But we take a lot of time to explain to people why things are needed.
Right, yeah. And I would like to move 5 up above the line, please. Says
As for
that-
number 6, which is the intern, and there's a memo attached for why
Okay,
they would like the intern.
Right,
But you're
yeah,
asking for
bump
the
it.
community survey as well.
So for
Yes.
the community satisfaction survey, when we did the communication survey, was that 2018 or was that 2019?
That was 2019.
Okay, that's when it was delivered, right?
Correct.
So it's been a good 5 years since we've kind of reached out. I know we've had some communication with the comp plan and, you know, we've had surveys that have gone out digitally, but in 2018 into 19, we did the paper survey, which I thought was pretty good. I'd love to, I don't know that we would get a different response than those top 3 or 4 if we did that survey now, but I'd love to put additional questions on that survey that revisit some of the questions we asked in 2019 to see if there's movement on some of that stuff, because we had communication preferences, communication methods. At the time we did that, our email list was like 0. And now we have a different, you know, we communicate slightly different, but, you know, it would be interesting to, I'm less concerned about the DEI stuff, but I understand why you're putting that in there. But I'd love to revisit some of the questions from the 2019 survey and re-ask them to get that kind of longitudinal, see if any of those things have changed. And then some of that will serve us for what you do with the website and LiboMag moving forward too.
The question about adding the survey is that given we've been doing a lot of surveys, well, it's, so it's like, is everybody kind of surveyed out right now? Like if we do this,
Survey exhaustion.
do it like November of next year.
Right.
To give people a chance to not be surveyed for a while.
Right. And I know Commissioner Squire Wilson has talked with the CEB at length about what their goals are as well. And some of their goals match up with what the comp plan asks for. I think ours would be more broad,
Yeah.
you know, and it has to be nationally benchmarked because as you
Right.
know, fire departments always come up looking great because they're helpful and inspections and police don't come up so great because they tell you you can't do something. So what is a good, sorry, but they're necessary. So what is a good rating for an police department?
Right.
And then what kind of improvement, you know, the comp plan suggested it be done in a repeated fashion. What kind of improvement can we expect to look for? What's reasonable? Fire department very often has issues when they try to do improvement, because every time they ask people, everyone's like, we love you, which they enjoy hearing, but they want to hear, we want to get better. Tell us how we can get better for you.
Well, I think to Commissioner Grella's point of saying some of the questions from 5 years ago, so look, we get different answers to the
Right.
same question. I just feel like just give people a chance to not be asked anything for a while.
And I'll just weigh in, give you what my perspective was. I mean, every year when I go through the budget, we always have service levels that I don't recommend for funding. It's
Right.
not because I don't think they have merit. It's just, I'm working with a limited pool of available funds and I've got to prioritize. For the community satisfaction survey, to Commissioner Silverman's point, we've had a lot of, I'll say, surveying of our residents over the last couple of years between the Parks Master Plan, between the comprehensive plan. We're going to talk to them about the active transportation plan. We're going to try to get their input on the South Garage. We're going to rewrite the zoning ordinance in Saldo. So again, to your point, is there the potential to have some, I'll say, survey fatigue? I think Commissioner Grella's point's good, that if this item moves forward, we should look back at that last survey that we did in 2019 and try to get some comparison data for, you know, what's changed in addition to whatever else would be included in that survey. I just wanted to.
I'd like to add that if, you know, we're doing another one, we should look back at old ones and see if we're addressing the concerns. I mean, the comp plan gave us a lot of data, like, are we
Oh, yeah.
following that up with the budget?
I mean, this is the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago about the DEI stuff, right? We had 100 recommendations and we're trying to figure out how to go through them. So we do have to remember that. I mean, we have changing commissions and changing priorities and priority projects change. And that's a tough part of what we do and how our system works, but I hear you. I think some of this stuff, this is just my opinion, maybe we disagree, because this is what we were talking about when you shushed me. I think personally, I
shushed you
Always
for
the mom.
something to give to Jeff, well, everybody else. is talking about it.
Personally, I value the surveys because you're getting input directly from the people who we serve, right? I mean, to Jeff's point, do you over survey and then, you know, you just have more data and then we have another reason to tell somebody we're not doing what you want us to do? Which I would argue, hey, that's our issue. You know, 90% of people are telling us to do X and we come up with a way not to do X, then we're the idiots, you know? So I think, I appreciate the surveys. It's great to get information from people. I would love to look back at that and just see if anything's changed. And, you know, if we get to some point where, I'm not saying the magazine should go away, but there are times where like, if we can supplement a portion of our user base with a method that they really want, you know, like if someone is saying, I get my information from the magazine, but we start over the course of a couple of years, making more information available via the web, which I would assume we're doing with more traffic, and via email or even LiboMag, those numbers might change. You know, people might say, I really trust email or I really trust LiboMag. So it'd be interesting to see if the changes we did 3 years ago, which came to pass last year, move that needle at all.
And that was my point about just give you a bit more spread of time that we just asked, that we just implemented.
Yeah.
And you know, let time and technology happen, to see if the answers change.
Thank you,
All
Laura.
right, I am gonna hop back over to the CTV meeting, so
Grand.
thank you very much.
Just walk. You don't wanna hurt yourself. Next, inspections, page 31 in your, budget, is where community development starts, and page 59 in the code. Where it ends. And it ends with you, Ron.
Ta-da.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you for everything that you have provided for the inspections office, especially the municipal software update. I want to thank finance and IT for all the help that they have provided in the process of trying to get that implemented.
Yeah.
We're about 80% through it. We're in our last part, which is called the Connect, which is the public facing side of it.
Right.
So next week, we're gonna come and give you a little update of where we're at so far. So that's the inspection side of it. And just as a brief introduction, the inspections office obviously is in charge of all building and plan review and inspections for any type of construction within the municipality, as well as any property maintenance, compliance inspections. We do annual pool inspections. And we do lately, especially this year, with the newer ordinances dealing with stormwater management as well as sump pumps. We've been issuing a lot more permits for stormwater management, both large and small projects. Some involving the municipal engineer as far as the design of them and the approval of them, as well as some pumps are pretty standard, but basically the grand idea of that is to get that water off of the street in the wintertime so we don't have any icing conditions. So, so far it's been very positive as far as getting that information in there and basically providing small sites within lots for that discharge to go into. And we've been very positive with that, but the number of permits that we have issued up to that point for those two reasons have basically increased throughout this year. And I expect it to continue into next year, so. We're on track, just like last year. As of the end of October, we were up over 800 permits this year alone. We actually approved 119 permits in the month of October. We had 29 applications in 1 week, like in September, so it's maybe that's why the real estate, is down because people are staying in their homes and renovating them instead of selling them or moving to a bigger, they're adding a lot of additions and we're getting a lot of work, being implemented. The big projects are down, but we've been seeing a lot of smaller projects coming in, so. We are not proposing any service level increase. Currently, it's for service level 1, it's myself, our building inspector and administrative assistant as far as processing the incoming permit applications. And, basically distributing once people pick them up. Service level 2 includes our building inspector and code enforcement officer. We were trying to next year have that inspector obtain additional certifications so that they can do additional inspections besides just straight residential building inspections. So we might move them into mechanical, insulation, things like that, so they can do a little bit more inspections to take a little bit more load off of the building inspector, Josh Meyer, so that we can get more plan reviews done and try to get the permits rolling at a faster rate. At the same time, service level 3 includes the expanded level of our current code enforcement officer, which basically handles property maintenance issues. So that's where we are now. I think the only increase that I think we asked for was for code book publications or purchase, because next year the state of Pennsylvania will adopt the 2021 codes. So we'll have to update all of our 2018 codes to the 21 codes for that update to the statewide building code. So that's the only anticipation that I see. And again, I'm looking very forward to getting that Municity 5 up and running and making sure that, everything runs smoothly. I can't thank Josh Meyer enough for all the work that he's done on that, because this old guy isn't that tech savvy, so he is taking it by the horns and he's gone far with it, so I appreciate that. Another thing that I wanted to note on for tonight is we talked about implementation of the first Wednesday sort of
How's that going?
consultation. So our first one in September, there was one, August we had one, September we had 4, October we had 6.
There you go. There you go.
I have to admit that I enjoy it thoroughly, only because I get to communicate and interact with the residents.
Yeah.
As well as contractors, but they provide feedback to me, which helped, because, for example, today we had one where a gentleman came in for a hot tub. And, he explained to me about if the handout that we have for swimming pools and hot tubs is more geared towards swimming pools and not hot tubs. And hot tubs are a lot simpler to approve, because you're only looking for a couple things compared to a swimming pool. So it's nice to get the feedback so that we could possibly change our handouts and our applications, to go forward to better serve, the public as far as how we do things, so.
Right.
So it's worked both ways as far as benefit.
I got feedback at the polls about the Wednesday night session. One of the people that was working the polls told me all about how great it was, and they'd sent in their property manager that had met with you several times on these Wednesday things, and it simplified and blah, blah, blah. And they've been a problem in the past because they didn't understand how to do things. So I'm just delighted.
Yeah, and
It's
again,
working so
I
well.
stress, you don't have to wait until Wednesday of the month,
Yeah.
If you have any concerns or questions, feel free to give me a call at any time.
Thanks, great.
So mostly for anybody who's listening in, you're talking about 2025, we're updating our code to 2021.
Correct.
That's state, because. it
But
goes
you
to
can
the
understand
state.
someone listening in going, say what? So I thought just a little bit of explain why.
So when they adopted the statewide code,
Statewide building
the
code.
statewide building code, the idea was to basically put forth throughout the state of Pennsylvania, everybody is on the same page. So they adopted that in 1999. The code series that the national company called International Code Council publishes, they come out with a new code every 3 years. So by the time the Department of Labor and Industry wrote the rules and regulations to enforce the statewide code, the 2003 code was the newest code. So in 2004, when the statewide code was adopted essentially or implemented, we used the 03 code. And then we went to the 06 code. We went to the 09 code. And then they call it the RAC, the Regulatory Advisory Council. They meet, they basically advise the Department of Labor and Industry whether or not they should adopt the changes that were made from one code edition to the next. So they don't look at the whole code, they just look at the changes from edition to edition.
Right.
They failed to adopt the 2012 code, and they kept the 2009. And then eventually, through pressure, they ended up adopting the 15 code in 2018, I believe it was. And then we went to the 2018 code. So we're behind. At the same time, the accessibility that was put into local inspectors' positions, because the Department of Labor and Industry used to enforce accessibility issues for public buildings or commercial buildings. They basically put that on us. That code then changed and went ahead whenever they skipped over the 15 code, or I'm sorry, the 12 code.
Right.
So it put everything out of whack. So we were in the 21 code for accessibility, but then the state got sued and they went back to the 09 code. So we're in the 2018.
It takes 3 years to review the code before you finally decide to adopt it.
Right, and they changed the way the RAC meets and issues the changes to it. So I think that unfortunately, we're gonna be on a 4-year lag with code updates, which in a way hurts us on our ISO ratings, because we're never gonna get a top level ISO rating, even though we've increased ours. We're never gonna get top notch because we're always 4 years behind in our code edition.
You thought municipal government was a slow, deliberative process.
So,
Wow.
You should have seen how long it took us to get a statewide building code. That's a whole nother story, right?
Well,
It
thank you.
was amazing. I remember those fights.
yeah.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Robbie.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Robbie.
Next, the impeccable Eric Milliron.
Thank you. Good evening,
Dazzle
Commission.
us with his grammar, I imagine.
Pardon?
You're gonna dazzle me with your grammar.
We'll see.
What page?
Better,
It's in that same section.
59
59.
in the budget binder.
Good evening, Commission. First off, let me apologize. I normally have some prepared statements. My wife had a serious bike crash, so she has a concussion and is
Oh, my
home. So,
Oh, my God.
yeah, she on an Allegheny Land Trust thing for the.
Thing,
for the
did she really?
conference.
Oh, my gosh.
So I'm a little not as prepared as I normally am, but with that being said, let's get to work. There's no expansion levels in my budget. So what you see there is what you're looking at, pretty much staff and my time. So I think most of you are familiar with what I do, but just to refresh for those at home, I'm the Economic Development Officer and Commercial Districts Manager for the municipality. As such, I basically am involved in anything that has to do with economic development in the commercial district. So that's everything from site location assistance to business planning assistance, working with future business owners, current business owners on retention services, anything that's required to keep all the business districts vibrant and humming. We're also involved in a number of projects, the Activate Uptown project, we're about halfway through that, so you'll be hearing more about that very, very shortly. So I'm managing that process at the moment. So again, you'll be hearing more about that, and you will probably expect to see some requests in the 26 budget. So this is the lull before the storm, maybe in 25 with me. But, so we're managing that project. I'll be involved in the Activate Uptown, initiative as well as many other things. So, that'll keep me busy. The Mount Lebanon Partnership, I'm the staff liaison, to that organization. There's going to be a lot of, work, that we're, going to be embarking on. We are in year 5. We're actually exiting. Year 5 is the exit year for the Main Street designation. So that sunsets December 31st. So I'll be working with the partnership on a new 5-year strategy. You'll be hearing a lot more about that. So we're going to be reapplying under Shapiro's new Main Street Matters program, which offers a lot of new opportunities for us in regards to funding. So that'll be something that we're going to be working on heavy in the first quarter. We're actually kicking things off in December at that meeting. We're have a retreat, begin that planning process. So I provide other services to the partnership in addition to managing the Main Street program. And then, of course, grant writing, grant management, of which we have a few. One of which is the GOBO Public Art Project, which we've had one test out there now. We presented a few weeks ago, a month ago, on that. That's going to be rolling out. And yeah. The facade grant program, the guidelines are pretty much complete. So we're going to be launching the facade grant program very shortly. We have a meeting this Friday just to put the final T's and crossing the T's and dotting the I's on that. So that'll be rolling out very shortly.
Great. So many questions. You're doing a great job. Especially because Itemay is here and they're the best. I mean, like,
Thank you.
nothing better.
Fantastic new restaurant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we have some
fantastic.
other new restaurants coming online, many of which
Yeah.
are public, some are not, but you know, we have a lot of
Yeah.
good things yet to come. Unfortunately, that one, we,
That work out.
we're in community.
Yeah, but it's right down on.
Yeah, it's our good friends at
Yeah.
Castle.
Well,
What restaurant?
I don't have any idea when that opens yet.
Itemay. It's across from Hitchhiker.
It's a new sushi Thai restaurant.
Sushi
It's
and Thai,
Really?
and it is to die for good.
You'll have to take me.
I dream about it. Oh my God, I think I'm there once. a week.
Yum, yum, cat.
And if sorry, just to be efficient, since I'm already sitting up here, do you mind if I talk about some of the civic activities? That way we can just
Okay.
kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Go for it.
All right.
I like that change of
Which
course.
page?
Let's roll. Yeah, because some of the civic activities I'm involved with too, and rather than save my fire and come back up here, I could just
Yeah, do it.
do it now. So, so we do a number of civic activities through my office, many of them you're familiar with. So the First Fridays, the holiday celebrations, which we're about to embark on. So the Uptown Winter Market Holiday Celebration, Beverly Bright Night. We also facilitate some additional sizzle to the Uptown Farmers Market. So we help bolster the second Saturdays there with live music. And we're looking to do even more next year. So some of the things we're considering is, this is bold, so I'm glad everyone's sitting down. We're thinking about making First Fridays final Fridays. So I know,
Oh,
I'm blowing some
my.
minds here. I apologize
Yeah.
for that. But one, we come across, we hit up against July 4th every year, obviously with the First Friday series. We're looking to mix it up and add some new elements. So I'll be updating folks on that as that comes through. But we're looking to shake it up a little bit. We've been doing First Fridays 17, 18, maybe even 19 years. And it's successful, but it's time for a refresh and a reboot, in my opinion. And again, in this year, again, you know, every year you hit up against July 4th and that presents challenges. So that's one of the things, to give you an advanced notion of some of the things we're looking to do. But the dollars that you generously provide to us really go a long way. You know, we hire really some of the best bands, some of the best talent for the First Fridays. If you've come to a second Saturday market, you've heard the Mac and family performing, it really adds, you know, something extra special to that. And I think our holiday celebrations, especially the Uptown holiday market, is really blown up into something very beneficial for the residents, but also the business district. It's an expanded event. a lot more things happening, and again, I think gives a better return to the business district than what we had been doing before. So
Can I suggest fourth Friday rather than final Friday? Just final Friday feels very into the world.
well, yeah, that could be. Yeah, we could, fourth Friday, I have to check the calendar, make sure it doesn't bust up against anything, I don't think it does. But, yeah, we want to keep alliteration in it, that's the important thing.
At one point have a helper, somewhere in the budget for some of these activities,
We
right?
did, we had a part-time special event coordinator that worked with the Vibrant Uptown celebration as well as a couple of other things.
It didn't prove to be as beneficial as we had hoped it would be.
Yeah, it was a contract person, so it was kind of, that circumstance, it was just easier to kind of do some of the things on our, just keep doing what we were doing.
We tried it, didn't work.
Yeah, sometimes.
Well, that's fine. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just,
You're correct that it was there.
I'm thinking it through, see?
Yeah,
Boy,
that's-
she's sharp.
She was fantastic, very talented. It's just, when you're, it was just candidly, I think, a little easier for us to handle it.
By the time you're not explaining what has to be done, you're like, I could have done.
I could have done it in the amount of time that it required to do it. So that's just how we rolled with that particular
Okay.
Circumstance.
I just feel like you have a lot on your plate, so I was trying to see if there was any way.
Like I say, 26, I'm gonna come in hot. So,
Okay, all right, I'm ready.
Well, speaking of, since we're on civic activities, does anybody have any questions on civic activities? Focusing your page to page 57 of the budget binder kind of lays out what we spend in the civic activities budget.
I see.
Over half the budget is for July 4th,
Mhm.
between, physical hours, full-time labor hours,
Mhm.
police double time, those types of things for July 4th. There's rides, games, fireworks, the whole deal, that whole day, is about half that budget. We also have things for the dive-in movies, concerts in the park, Halloween parade, all of Eric's activities that he just mentioned, and some other things for light nights.
So the only thing I want to get rid of is the dive-in movies, because I'm the one that has to take the grandchildren and I hate that thing. The passion, okay, I didn't really say that out loud, I'm sorry.
I
Sorry.
hope they're watching.
Realize.
That's so skibbity. Yes.
I was gonna say, really?
I think the civic activities are really important. I know that,
I
I'm
agree.
not saying anything that anybody doesn't know, but I've worked with far too many communities that look at this sort of stuff as being, kind of, frivolous, and I feel, thank you, the exact opposite. These are the things that make people attached to their community, that keep people from selling their homes sooner, that raise property value. I just think that these things really matter, and I think it's important that we continue to value them, and I appreciate that they're here.
It really does bring the community together.
It's a lot of work.
And that's what
so
matters, like having
that's-
those, the connection to your community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I get a chance for people just to celebrate, just enjoy it. That's all we ask, just come up and have fun. And shop and buy and go dine out. Spend, that's all we need.
Spend money.
Make memories.
And make memories.
Eat candy.
Live, work, play.
Oh.
Work play.
This is home. This is home.
Banner somewhere that says that.
This is home.
Oh, there we go. All right,
Thanks, Eric.
thank you. If you don't mind, I'm gonna. go.
No.
Yes.
All of us, children.
Thank you.
Yes.
Please.
Here. Next is Mr. McBean's.
Ta-da.
If we were to ever have somebody fill the 740, we have the right person in the seat.
Uh-huh,
My
they do.
budget talks are usually fairly short. So Manager Miguel and Public Information Officer Laura Paisel have already mentioned the zoning code update, so I won't go into extensive detail on that. We talked a lot about that last year during the budget workshops. We've all talked about it. It's been mentioned multiple times throughout this past year is something that we need to do. I have a running folder of ideas and questions and things to look into that people have sent me. I've also started benchmarking what some other communities have done with their RFPs. So I am ready to hit the ground running with that in January, pretty much once we wrap up the main park site plan, because we only have so much capacity within the planning office. So the planning office itself is basically two half people to start. It's half of myself as the planner and then also assistant manager, half of a admin, which is shared with community and economic development with Eric's department. And then Greg Warden, our urban planning and sustainability coordinator, which is service level 2 in the budget. In the 2 years since we have hired Greg, he has helped bring in almost $900,000 in grant money, $896,301 if you're keeping track at home. He's written the grant applications for those. We also are very thankful, as Manager McGill mentioned, to our elected officials, Representative Miller, Senator Fontana, and others for helping us get that money through the legislative processes. Greg is also taking on the task of doing internal grant management, so making sure that all of the reports are filed with
Yeah.
DCED and the county and everyone else to keep those grants active and updated, and making sure that everyone's notified when we expend the funds and close them out. We also currently have about 1.1 million in outstanding grants that we've applied for and are waiting to hear back on as well. That includes a grant to fund the final piece of the active transportation plan. So when we funded that initially, there was the ad alternate that we did not fund as part of the initial funding, which would be $35,000 in total. If we added on the ad alternate in that plan, which is the safety study, safety analysis, seeing as we're splitting the cost of the plan of about 70-30 with Dormont. If we don't get the grant for that, we may have to allocate another 25,000 to complete that portion of the study, which between both communities, everyone seemed to think was a essential piece of the plan. But nevertheless, we decided to go after the grant funding first, see if we can get it. And if we don't get it, we may be coming back to the commission at a later date to ask for a little bit more funding. So that's the primary synopsis of the planning office. I'm happy to answer any questions the group may have.
I just have one comment. So on number 3 for the zoning code update, we have, I don't want to read the whole thing, but it basically says, and this may be semantics, but I think words matter. The zoning code update study is for us to implement or incorporate the recommendations of the comprehensive plans. I don't think we want to have that there. I don't think we're limited to just the recommendations of the comprehensive plan. We had some zoning comments in the comprehensive plan, but
They were general.
yeah. So I think whatever the zoning code update study is, and I'm assuming that this is done in conjunction with you. So I think that needs to look at just best practices in general, overall zoning recommendations. I don't know how far they're gonna get into the saldo,
There may
probably
be
more
some
us than
stuff.
them.
Yeah.
but I think there can probably be some good stuff in zoning.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that we're not limiting the consideration of the zoning study to what's inside the comprehensive plan.
No, it's gonna be comprehensive. It's going to be a comprehensive look at zoning. And the saldo piece, primarily my interest there is if there are zoning updates to regulations as far as setbacks and
Right,
other design things,
that
The-
has to go.
the design guides in the appendix of the saldo are basically still the original ones from like 1972. Probably updating those might be a good
Important,
idea. Make them a little more accessible.
Some of them were updated in 05.
Some of them are still the,
So you're talking about like having a design firm update materials to then be kind of pushed back into the saldo.
so in a sense, it depends on what happens in zoning, but the back end of the saldo has basically, design sketches for this is how it, this is how a turning radius has to look on a street. This is how angled parking has to look, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Updating those images based on whatever gets done in the zoning code is probably the main saldo piece that needs to happen.
Is that something that we would do internal or?
We typically pull the consultant in
Yeah,
on
we'd
that
have
piece
to
as
do it.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
most
I
of them
would-
have graphic
Yeah.
artists.
We'll look at our municipal standards for
Yeah.
sidewalk construction, for curbs, all of those
Right.
things, just to see if anything needs to be updated.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Any other questions?
Thank you all.
We're off and running.
Thanks. Yes.
We'll do engineering.
Engineering.
Any questions on that? We'll take a brief break and then we'll come back and finish library and recreation for the evening. Sound good?
Yes, we're gonna do engineering, right?
Engineering, yes.
Okay.
The engineering budget for 2025 increases slightly just for new costs and litigation and those types of things. This budget is for non-specific projects. This is not for any specific projects. Those usually follow the function that they're doing, whether it be a capital project, streets, curbs, you name it. All the things we do, they follow the engineering there. This is just for the non-specific projects. The things we typically do, I just want to make sure that sometimes the budgets can elevate depending on if we're really looking into a project. So for instance, I'll give you an example is the McNeely project, McNeely Field project. We asked for updated numbers.
Yes,
We really don't have a budget for that.
right, sure,
This is the budget for that.
right.
So we, so if it ever elevates above it, it's usually for those types of projects. If a project is funded within that year, I do move it to that, to follow that project, but if it's not, then that can be there. So just want to make note of that, but generally this is your catch-all for all things non-specific engineering wise.
Great, thank you.
Grand. Yeah.
All right, we'll take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 7:30.
Page.
All right, we're back.
All right, back here. Got it.
Yeah, 30. Got it. I have it.
You're up, Robin.
Good evening.
Your coffee.
For the audience at home, my name is Robin Vitek, Mount Lebanon Public Library's Director. With me is Library Board Treasurer Marcia Taylor, and she's a total trooper because she's not feeling 100%, but she's here to support the library. So thank you for giving us this time to speak about the library. I'd like to start by thanking Manager McGill and the commissioners for the generous and stable support that the municipality has always provided for our library, which directly impacts Mount Lebanon residents. Most of our residents are library card holders. And besides using library resources and attending library programs, residents devote volunteer hours, donate funds, and advocate for the library to others. Our library is a gathering place for the entire community. In 2024, we hosted New York Times bestselling author Michael Pollan, provided a robust summer reading program for all ages, and continued progress on increasing the diversity of our library's collection. We've embarked on a space planning project using funds donated by our generous patrons and friends to make the library even more accessible, welcoming, and user-friendly. One of the most important services we provide is access to e-resources. We share the costs of ebooks with the county based on a formula that considers circulation and collection expenditure. Our library contributes 11.3% of the total cost of e-resources for the county. As e-resources become more expensive and usage increases, so do our costs. While our library saw a 3.5% increase in e-resources circulation for our library patrons, our contribution for the coming year has increased by 18%, which is about $17,650. Unlike many libraries, our physical circulation is continually increasing as well, up 2.5% from the previous year. Usage of physical materials still accounts for 81% of our circulation, so we need to ensure that e-resources costs are covered without a large hit to our total collection budget. The PA Commonwealth budget and necessary distribution language was passed in July of this year with flat funding in the state's public library subsidy. Allegheny County libraries can also count on strong support from the Regional Asset District. We were just informed last week that they anticipate a 3.5% increase. The municipality, of course, is our greatest and most constant supporter. We are truly fortunate that we are supported not only financially, but that we have historically been able to preserve our library's adherence to the ALA's Library Bill of Rights and Freedom to Read statement to provide unfettered access to information for all. We strive every day to meet our mission to provide an inclusive, welcoming environment of intellectual enrichment, creativity, and enjoyment, and a forum to exchange ideas by providing top-tier programs, materials, services, and community support. Thank you for helping us to make this mission a reality for the people of Mount Lebanon every day. With that, I'd like to give Marcia the opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you. First of all, I've been proud to serve on the library board. This is my 12th year. I served 2 3-year terms when I was an employee here, and I'm just finishing my 6th year of 2 3-year terms. And quite frankly, that's it for me for libraries. I am on the EIN board, which gives me a perspective that not a lot of people get to see. And I have to echo what Robin said. The library here is a huge community asset. When Robin says our circulation is up 2.5%, we circulate about 50,000 items a month, which is an incredible number. It's not yet to the pre-COVID level, back to the pre-COVID levels. It's getting close. And that, as Robin mentioned, cannot be said by many libraries. I want to give a pitch for something. E-resources are becoming more and more important to people, particularly as our population becomes more computer literate, with young parents now wanting e-resources for their kids, for the books, whatever it might be. In the budget is an expansion level for e-resources. It was not funded in the manager's recommended budget. That's the 17,000 that Robin mentioned. The RAD fund, however, it's interesting. It's sort of like a simpatico number. The e-resource budget went up 3.5%, and the RAD appropriations going up 3.5%. So I think we should consider merging those. If the RAD appropriation will give us roughly $12,000 additional than what the library had originally proposed in the budget, because at the time we proposed a RAD freeze. We didn't know what the number would be. I would propose that we dedicate the 3.5% increase from RAD funds to the e-resources level and simply ask the commission for the additional $5,800 to fully fund the level. I think that would be a wonderful way to get that level funded and provide a very, very necessary resource for our patrons. So it's been my pleasure. I had to come to my last budget meeting. And I guess we'll take any questions.
You can always come again, even when you're not on the board.
I mean, yeah.
They're open to the public, great.
You know, I made a pledge when I left here, which was 11 years ago, 11?
Yeah.
Keith can very, 11 years ago.
11 years ago, 3 months.
Thank you.
It was counting.
Because
Replaced.
he replaced me, so he knows. I made a pledge that I was basically going to stay hands-off, and I just thought it was appropriate. I don't think people should come back and
Second guess.
what's going on or I do read the budget. I read the annual report cover to cover. I read the popular report because those were near and dear to my heart. But I think my only other commission meetings besides library budgets have been her.
I don't know.
Robin, we had, a couple years ago, we had approved some additional funding for, like, you were seeing increased activity in that window after school before parents get home. We had done some additional programming. Has that continued and wrapped in? Like, I know at one time that we was like, and then that moved to a full-time position. So have we seen, I know you're only calling out the additional service item here, but have we seen other like needs like that identified? Do we expect that to increase, be about the same? Kids, you know, that 2 hours, I guess?
It's a perennial need, that after school, time, extra stuff is needed to monitor the students after school, just because of the volume, the huge number that we get in the winter, especially between when they come back from winter break and before spring sports start. We can have 60 to 70 kids in the library after school.
They're middle schoolers too. Let's
Yes,
bear
they
that
are
in mind.
middle schoolers.
Yeah.
So we do have one full-time
Sorry.
field services librarian. And when Lori Schultz retired, one of our adult services librarians last year, we were able to replace her and also hire an additional part-time children's librarian, because she was on the old scale and, you know,
Yeah.
had been here for a while. So that part-time librarian helps out a couple of days a week after school. And then my associate directors, Sharon Bruni, Jeremy White, and I spend 3 to 4 o'clock most days patrolling upstairs and helping maintain, as well as any librarians that are working on the floor and the circulation staff. It's really kind of an all hands on deck sort of situation.
But being managed is what you're saying.
It's most days, yes.
That's why you see them with rulers, yardsticks.
We work the shushing finger a lot. No,
I have a couple of questions, kind of one, two different subjects, one of which Commissioner just brought up, but going with the e-resources, and I appreciate where you're coming from, of reducing the amount of the ask. And I don't know if the question is for folks at the library or for Keith, that there's a notation about the allocations funded by the municipality leaves reliance on friends of the money. So I guess just trying to get a bit more of how is that e-funds bucket filled besides RAD dollars, because there's a reference here to Friends of the Library.
The Friends don't directly contribute to the e-resources line item specifically. But they do contribute to operating funds that allow us to use our money in other places. So they provide almost all of the programming that happens at the library. And they also provide subscriptions to our on-demand, for lack of a better term, Bookstop and Movie Stop subscriptions. So we rent basically several volumes of high-demand new titles that we keep for a few months and then we send them back because we don't need to buy 8 copies of something because after a few months, it's not needed anymore. So we'll maybe buy 2, rent, 8 and then send this back. So the Friends pay for that and they pay for almost all of our programming, like the vast majority. So they contribute just to those operating expenses about 60 a year, 65 a year.
The issue though, of course, the
5,000, yes.
issue of course though is you never know what the Friends will be coming up with money wise.
Right.
Their contribution to the library, which as Robin is indicating, can be used to pay for things that frees up money to do other things with. And I think that's what this is referring to in the budget document. But the bookseller is their primary source of income. And you just don't know there have been years that they've been very, very generous and there have been years that have been a little bit leaner. So you can't count, we figure 60-ish, but that's an ish.
It varies from year to year.
Yeah.
Well, certainly I'd like to, the $5,800 to put that to flag to.
6,000, right?
Well,
5,800.
5,800.
$57.99.
So.
Okay, yeah, keep it down.
Maybe just put the whole thing above.
Although I can't do it 9 because Terry would get mad at me, so.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
if I may, so that was the first thing, the 5,800, that I wanted to pivot to a different subject.
On library.
Follow what you were talking about on library. Outreach has talked about partnering with the library on programs, so kind of
They
follow what
do,
you were talking
yeah.
about. But it's on the outreach ask as opposed to the
Oh,
library.
I see. Okay.
And
Got
since library's here, and the outreach unfortunately is not, so just trying to get a sense of your take on their ask and how does that tie into Mr. Grell's question of that peak hour or two, bedlam, if you will, and is that something that outreach is asking for? You may not be aware of what's in the document.
If it's their continued, they've been programming with us after school for a few years now, and it's been wonderful. They come once or twice a month, I think, and they provide a program as part of our Shine at MLPL program, which is our mental health and wellness series. So they do mental health Mondays with the teens, and it gives the kids a chance to interact in a small group, safe space setting with one of the counselors at Outreach. So it gives them a chance to ask questions and learn more about, coping mechanisms, how to be healthy emotionally, that sort of thing. And the kids seem to really get a lot out of it. They look for Maggie when she's not there. They ask when the next session is going to be. It seems like a really popular program, and it's been a really big success for us. We program after school as much as we can, but again, it's difficult because if we have some of the kids in a program, then we still have to maintain the rest of them. They don't
More of a
all.
holding action.
It's hard to explain in a way that doesn't sound a way I don't want it to, but basically, yeah, we do some after-school arts and crafts programs. There's a Dungeons and Dragons program series. There's a comic book club. There's the mental health Monday. So we do some programming in addition to just giving them a space to hang out after school. And we've been doing as someone said, we've been managing with what we have, and it's going well. So far this year has been going well.
Thank you.
I'm glad you brought it up, Steve, because I was looking at the outreach, right? Like Mary never asks for any additional stuff, and I think every year we've given her a little extra money for some of those programs. And Commissioner Flynn brought something up when we talked about the person, I can't remember the title of the person who's coming in to work with the police for the, thank you. And Andrea had mentioned, it's really interesting to see like data coming in from different areas, and I think this is one where we've got, you know, like obvious crossover with schools and with potentially with this person who could get involved in some of these programs and outreach teen, and then even, I think I said school already. But I've been talking to the school liaison about, you know, how can we, we're trying to coordinate more. And since there's such a crossover between kids running from the school, coming to the library and programs and things like that. So I think it's really, I was gonna ask for all that to be above the line anyway on the outreach team.
On outreach.
Yeah, it's not a lot of money. It's like 3 items that are like $2,000 each.
It's not.
So just so you know, the reason they're not there is because they don't spend it. So they don't bill it for us.
Yeah.
It's all sitting there, and currently we have over 21, close to 22,000 that hasn't been spent.
Can't we just like run a dedicated program? Can't they take that money?
Hey,
and run a
we can
dedicated
talk to
program?
Mary, but there is a reason for that. I mean, the manager and I talked about that during it, like, it's sitting there ready for them to move forward.
They've not asked.
Right.
And I know in the past it's been, they haven't had to, you know, the extra time. But it's like, if you're at that level, that's almost like a, you know, half-year salary for someone.
Yeah,
That's
it's something that could ask them there, but there's a reason why it's not there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the social work coordinator. We have talked to her, and she's going to have semi-regular office hours at the library, kind of open office hours every other week. I think is the initial plan, to just see how things go with that. But we've talked about that with the police department since before she was selected for the position, and we met with her, and she's excited to do it, so.
So we're gonna bump the 5,800 above the line?
That's fine.
But now I heard from some of you over there, you wanted to bump the entire 17,650 above the line to give the library extra funds to do other things. Is that? what
We're gonna
I'm
do
just
the
curious.
calculating at the end, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna get those numbers from Andrew anyway. I would say just put it over the line and we'll figure it out.
So it says you're asked, because I was talking about how much for
Outreach.
library ask versus what outreach was asking.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So just identify, like I'm saying, $5,800 library, when we do get outreach and have a chance to chat with them about the stuff that was
Yeah.
above the line, below the line.
He said,
That's where I'm coming
That
from.
was
It's maybe
yours.
Totally different from what
Yeah.
you're asking.
So what we'll do is we'll put it at 5,800 for now, with a possibility to scale it if you want to go up to that number,
okay.
Okay.
based on their ask and what Marcia had said this evening.
I mean, basically what the library does is daycare for middle schoolers. That's what's going on.
I did not say that.
I did, because, you know, I did it, and my kid did it. So I know
I've
how.
had parents
Yeah.
refer to it in similar ways, but we don't
Yeah.
like to say that ourselves.
I mean, the way I look at it is,
A lot.
I don't know the mechanisms of RAD inside and out. But I would imagine that money can go up and down.
Oh, yeah.
So next year, if that money happens to be down, then we're looking at a different number. I was thinking if this is a program that we want to do, you know, like if we're saying, hey, let's increase the e-services, pay for it. If we get that bonus 1 year as opposed to another, then it's gravy.
The
But
regional asset district, for the audience at home, they have a 1% sales tax on top of Allegheny County tax, and that money goes to museums, the zoo, libraries, art.
Symphony.
Yeah,
So you're saying.
nonprofits.
Sorry.
Right, and so it's based on sales tax. So when Taylor Swift was here
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, we had a very good year, and they funded all of our computers in the county for the next 3 years. So, you know, it's really dependent on what's happening in the county and,
Yeah.
you know.
That's totally Sigma.
there it is, you worked it in. I'm sorry, I had one other question. This is specifically related to the e-resources and circulation. So if someone's on a book club and they want to get whatever, the latest, you know, Michael Connolly novel, it's like a 16-week wait, right? Maybe more, probably more. Is there like a direct correlation to dumping more money into e-services and increasing the number of availability of like popular or new books? Is that how that works?
Yes, e-resources cost the libraries far more than they cost a normal consumer. So if you're buying a book, an ebook on Amazon, you might be paying $15 for it. We might pay $80 for the same title.
Because you're.
Right, and
using it
then
over
we
and over
have
again.
limited use, so the titles, you might be able to circulate them 26 times, and then you have to buy it again.
Okay.
Or you have it for a limited time, like 2 years, and then you have to buy it again. So, it drives our costs way, way up. Recently, over the summer, the, Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh, they're the ones that oversee the e-resources for our county. And they made some changes to the number of holds you can put at one time. And did a couple of other measures just to try to mitigate some of those long waits. Because we can't afford to keep up with the demand, basically, is the problem. We could put twice as much as what we're putting in now, and it still probably wouldn't be what keeping up with the
Depending
demand.
on the title, not all of the, you bring up a Michael Conley or John Grisham or whoever it might be, the very popular.
Yeah.
They don't always necessarily make those available through e-resources when they come out in print,
Gotcha.
because they want you to go out and buy their book.
Yeah, yes.
So that's definitely part of the delay.
Because I think like if we have, I'm making up a number, I'm sure you have this data, right? But like if we have 1,000 residents who are buying a brand new audiobook or a brand new book at $20 a pop, right? There's a certain amount of money. And I wonder if we meet that demand by putting that much municipal money in and then saving residents that much money on the personal side. I don't know if those numbers completely translate, or if there would be like if it costs us $80 to buy a book and we could essentially rent it out 20 times, that costs our residents, when you amortize it out across taxes, $1 a year. As opposed to somebody buying 3 books at $20 a book. I'm wondering if that's, I'm not saying we should do that math, I'm just wondering if that exists.
Andrew's already doing the math.
Like we talk about, we have a long conversation about, do we put garbage in the taxes? Do we put it out of the taxes? And, this kind of goes hand in hand with, well, I don't think we would have this on a survey, but, when you start having conversations with residents about what they want, I wonder where that comes, in terms of ranking.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Robin, I mean, to your point, I think we buy it at a level that isn't individual library based.
Right,
So it's not our decision
Right.
to buy
It's,
said book
Okay.
and go to that next step. Someone is saying, okay, are we gonna buy $80 worth more? In her example, there's somebody else deciding,
So
not
that's
necessarily
doing that
us.
all county.
COP.
Carnegie Library.
Yes,
Got it.
but we do have some resources that our library pays for that are unique to our library card holders that other libraries don't necessarily have. And some of our resources that are available through the county or through us, like Hoopla or Canopy, you can download videos, you can download books, and you don't have to go through the Libby system, you don't have to wait. Is it Hoopla that, there's never a wait for the books that they have limited titles, but you never have to wait for them.
Yeah, but on the big one that you're talking about, it
Yes.
is a collective
Yeah.
purchase, it's not us.
Yeah, okay, got it. That makes sense.
And
Thanks.
basically, they're balancing how many Michael Conleys are going to be bought in the system and how many e-books are going to be bought. And, how many are gonna be left when you're done. And ACLA at one point took 100, this is back 15 years ago, it might even predate you, put together a fund of $100,000 and said, we will use this to buy the bestsellers. To basically free up the libraries from having to buy the bestsellers, because what do we need to buy 20 John Grishams for? I'll use John Grisham, you can, Michael Conley, whoever. What are we gonna do with them when it's no longer the book?
Right.
Okay, and that, I don't know if they're still doing that. It went on for a number of
I'm not
years.
sure, we use the rental program, and every library I've worked at has used the McNaughton rentals and to get the hot titles for books, but they were providing books through ACLA to some extent, I'm just not sure exactly.
Okay, thanks.
We'll balance the budget with the Taylor Swift autobiography.
Last Friday.
That I'm gonna be quiet about. For once, I'm going to show some
No,
self-restraint.
Last Friday.
All right, that's been added. Anything else for them?
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Here comes recreation.
Recreation.
Technically, yes. Stephen just pointed out if I took a break, I could get another 6 years into the library. I said technically.
That's a great idea.
It has been fun because some of you don't know this, but I was the first president of ACLA. I did that for 6 years. I've been on the EIN board 6 years and I'm on another 6 years stint. Libraries are just.
I've seen what the devil
Plus you are.
666.
What?
The devil sign, 666.
You don't.
Oh, have fun recreating. Thank you. Good to see you, Marcia. A former fire chief always called it. Oh, here we go. Organized grab ass.
Coming from fire seems a little ironic.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm Marcia.
Page 56 in the,
NRG rating.
Right, right.
Page 50.
We'll bleep that.
page 150 in the budget binder.
Yes. Okay.
All right, good evening, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to present the Recreation Department budget this evening. I'll give a brief overview, hit some budget highlights, and answer any questions you may have.
I'm sorry, did you say 156 or 50 still?
Is it tab?
150 in the budget.
50.
150.
And I also have the recreation managers with me this evening. Assistant Recreation Director Tim Ishman is responsible for the rec center budget. That's the ice rink, swim center and community center. Seasonal Program Manager, Zach Rolling, he'll be responsible for that budget. We have Colin Exter, our golf course manager. And Darren Rosso, our new racket center manager, who is responsible for both the tennis and platform tennis budgets. So beginning with the highlights, the 2025 expenditure budget for the department as a whole is $4,423,760. This is an increase of $323,490 or 7.9% as compared to the 2024 budget. The most significant change in 2025, of course, is assuming responsibility for indoor tennis. That'll be our first full year of year-round tennis. And there's many expenses that go along with that, such as utilities and staffing. And we'll get more into detail on that when we get to that cost center. Additionally, the manager has recommended 2 expansion levels, the replacement of skirting on platform courts 3 and 4, and swimming pool water slide restoration for $28,660. Moving into the cost centers, we'll start with rec management. This is our overall administrative overhead for the department. Expenditures here decreased 6.6% or $24,810. That's due to a retirement this year. Revenues go up 9.8% or $5,000. That is an increase in field rental revenues. Moving on to seasonal programs, there's many line items and small fluctuations here, but revenues overall are nearly the same, slight increase of $1,310. Expenditures increase $8,250 or 1.75%. Moving on to the golf course, revenues increased $14,500 or 2.7% due to increases in rounds. And expenditures increased $34,830 or 5.9% due to wages and fringes. So as I mentioned before, tennis, this will be our first full year-round operations. We started this year with our full-time maintenance position in February of this year. Our new manager, Darren Rosso, started on April 23rd. We got off on the right foot with a great outdoor season, many positive changes, excellent court conditions, and a new hitting wall. Everything was just very well received. The bubbles went up on time after renovations to courts 5 and 6, and the season is underway and also going very well.
With the move to year-round tennis operations, there are big changes in both revenues and expenditures, as you would expect. Revenues are increasing 115% or 259,930. Expenditures are increasing 93.5% or 337,900. The 2025 budget has revenues at 485,430 and expenditures at 699,350 for a balance of negative 213,920. I do want to comment on service level rankings in tennis. The full-time racket professional is in the manager's budget at service level 8. I do want to mention that it does have a revenue component, which was shared with you earlier today. And we think that, you know, there's a good chance we would offset most and potentially all of the costs associated with that position. Darren and I rank this expansion level very high. We think it will be very important to the growth and success of the tennis center. I know the manager is not recommending it for funding this year. He would like to get some more data as this is all new. That's completely understandable. I just want to emphasize, though, that this is a high priority for recreation. There will be many unknowns with this new venture, but so far everything has been very successful. And I think we've budgeted conservatively, and I think you know, we want to do much better than what we've budgeted this year. Moving on to platform tennis. Expenditures are up 8,410 or 33%. That's due to the skirting replacement and some other anticipated maintenance. Revenue is budgeted to stay about the same. We'll move on to the ice rink. Expenditures are budgeted to decrease 21,670 next year or 1.6%. And we're budgeting a decrease in revenue of 30,840 or 2%. This is attributed to the projected decrease in admissions, programs, and snack bar. Just trending lower in some of those areas, and we just no longer have a snack bar inside the rec center, a traditional snack bar. Swim center, we have expenditures going up 15,140 or 2%. Most notably, we have the expansion level for the slide restoration.
Dave, can I? jump
Yes,
in?
sir.
Just on the ice center, you've got the it's below the line.
Correct.
And I was just gonna throw out, it's just something to think about. We're talking about a bond issue. Does it make sense to add this item to the bond issue, depending on how long the life is of that item? So just something to think about.
Given the cost, I don't know that I'm throwing that into a bond issue. It's a $16,000 expenditure.
It just, I hate to say creative bookkeeping, but just looking at is trying to work with money as best we can. So that's something for the group to think about.
Well, I think it would definitely meet the service life requirement, but not the dollar amount.
You like that be placed above the line?
Please again.
So we were jumping into the swim center there. The notable increase in the expansion level. Also noteworthy is an expansion or additional funding directed towards training for pesticide certifications, which was identified as an area where we want to improve. Revenues were decreased by 21,450 or 4%. Revenue has been tracking lower. We're also no longer budgeting for private birthday parties due to limitations on staffing. I do believe that with the new filtration system, we're going to be able to save on our chemical budget. And if we get some help from good weather, I think admissions will improve greatly as well. So there's a lot of potential to improve the bottom line there. Community center.
Let me interrupt for just a second. Service level 4, new controller. If filtration system is funded through the bond issue, that will also be replaced.
Okay.
Service level 7.
Yeah, I would add that.
Well, you've already
Oh,
approved.
we did,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
That's why that.
Anyway, so the service levels.
If you prove the bond issue, like the way we've talked about with the filtration system, service level 4 is not needed to be funded because that'll be rolled into that project.
Right.
Service level 7's already been done this year.
Okay.
When we discussed that project, we did discuss trying to roll in some other improvements that would be cost effective, and compatible with that. So we are looking at all those things and, you know, things that we may have concerns that could become too costly, we'll make a ad alternate. But we're trying to address as much as possible in this project.
Right.
Okay, so moving along to community center, we're reducing expenditures 34,560 or 16.3%. This is due to expanded levels in the current budget and a reduction in maintenance, supplies and repairs. Revenues are budgeted to decrease 3,000 or 4.6%. And that concludes our cost centers. After factoring in revenue, the department is budgeted to have a net deficit of $649,010. Are there questions?
No, but I'd like to bounce the full-time head racket professional above the line for consideration, please.
I thought Keith was waiting until that plays back.
I just wanna.
Well, she's asking for it to go above.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
you can-
making a
we
joke
still
about
go
showing
ahead
the bounce it, that's a,
Next slide.
see how it plays out, so like, the joke went fine.
And I'm always
The joke.
very, I'll say, diligent in terms of adding additional staff, because it's not just a one-time annual cost, there's a legacy
Right.
cost there. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll add that up on sides.
Wasn't able to see you when you were.
Sidewalk
Oh,
repair,
yeah, we still have any carryover funds? We do. Yeah, we still had carryover funds, number one, and
Okay.
number two, we're still sort of deciding on a project, if you will.
yeah, well, no, I know we are.
Direction.
Yeah, I just look at the, you got a lot done last year.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, I think about my kid in the wheelchair.
Sure.
It's sidewalks that aren't fixed or
Right.
become impossible for people to navigate. So, but if we still have carryover, I'll concede the sidewalk repair.
Yeah, we're trying to like
Yeah.
repair the work so that it's
Yeah,
safe
exactly.
and,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
useful, but we do recognize that it's old and
Yeah.
periodically we do have to do some repairs.
And we drive cars over it
We
time to time.
regularly delivery
Yeah.
trucks, yes.
Trucks and all that kind of stuff.
This is more just a language note maybe for the team for next year. As opposed to referring to it as the tennis center, maybe we want to pick up the racket center from all of it.
You're making change a lot of stuff.
Tell ya.
We are on the cusp of that transition.
I
Mr. Miguel,
I know Mr. Denellen has also asked that the platform tennis rolls into that as well, so.
Yes.
If you would like that said, you will be that.
Okay. Yeah,
Me and you,
that's
Darren,
good.
you got this, buddy.
Thank you.
Any other questions for recreation?
Boy, we're so easy on you this year, right?
I'm telling you.
I do have one question, it's like, it's below the line just to get the new domestic hot water tank replace the old remaining unit.
If it goes, we replace it.
Yeah, again, that's the way I treat those because.
Yeah.
We have to,
That answered the question. Thank
we
you.
have two commissioners, so we do have the capacity. It's just that they're the same age and one failed and was replaced, so we're just want to make sure that that's on the radar.
We don't have to buy the spinner yet, so.
Yeah,
But there's not like a 30-year backup, like some of the other stuff we had with rec this year.
Well, like-
we don't
Not
anticipate,
like the shaft.
we don't anticipate any supply chain issues on this one.
For a water heater, right? Cool.
Okay, well,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Record time, 10 minutes for recreation.
Yeah, right? Why I said we're being easy on something.
Yeah, gee, change, I'll have to change that up.
Oh, change that up.
He'll be back for capital, don't worry.
Drill him there.
Those are increases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, stuff wears out. Does.
Does that mean school is done?
That's the end of our program for this evening. Are there any questions anybody would like to have before we adjourn the meeting? That concludes budget session 1.